There's a moment that separates who we are from who we could become. It doesn't come with warning or ceremony. It comes quietly in the middle of exhaustion, in the silence after failure, or in the loneliness that no one else can see. For me, it came one night when everything I thought I was building began to fall apart. I remember sitting alone in my apartment, the sound of the city still echoing outside, and realizing that the noise of the world had seeped into my soul. I was constantly running after success, after approval, after something I couldn't even name. I wasn't living. I was chasing. And the faster I ran, the emptier I became. That night I stopped. For the first time in years, I didn't reach for my phone, didn't distract myself with work or noise. I just sat in the quiet, and it felt like staring into a mirror I had avoided all my life. What I saw wasn't weakness, it was fatigue, confusion, and fear. But beneath all that was something else, something steady. A whisper that said, "This isn't the end. It's the beginning." The next morning, I started small, no grand plans. No speeches about change. Just a walk before sunrise. The city was still asleep, and in that silence, I realized something profound. Peace doesn't come from fixing your life. It comes from facing it. That's what the Stoics taught, not to run from chaos, but to walk through it without losing your center. Strength isn't loud, it's quiet. It's the ability to stand still when everything around you demands that you move. I began to study those who lived that way, the calm few who didn't need to prove anything to anyone. Soldiers who returned from war and found grace in simplicity. Teachers who never sought fame but changed lives quietly. Workers who endured hardship without complaint. They all shared something in common, an unshakable presence. The kind of strength that doesn't shout, but speaks through consistency. That's when I understood what Stoicism really means, not emotionless detachment, but emotional mastery. The ability to feel deeply and still remain in control. And maybe that's the question we should all ask ourselves, not how do I win, but how do I remain steady when the world falls apart? Because that steadiness, that stillness, is where true freedom begins. If this message resonates with you, if you're tired of chasing and ready to rebuild from within, subscribe. Join me on this journey. Let's learn to walk the Stoic path together, slowly, quietly, intentionally, until one day, we no longer chase peace, but become it. Now, I want to ask you something. When everything collapses, what defines you more? A. The strength you show when the world is watching. B. The calm you hold when no one is. Type your answer A or B in the comments. I'll see you there. After that night of stillness, something shifted. It wasn't dramatic, no sudden burst of enlightenment or sweeping transformation. It was quieter than that, almost invisible. But I could feel it. Each morning, when I woke before dawn, the air seemed heavier, slower, as if life itself was asking, "Will you keep going even when no one's watching?" And I did. Not because I felt strong, but because I was tired of being weak. In those early days, I discovered how fragile motivation truly is. Some mornings, I woke full of purpose. Others, I woke hollow. But I made myself move anyway. I walked through the park before sunrise, when the streets were empty and the only sound was the wind brushing against the leaves. I realized that growth doesn't happen in grand gestures. It happens in the repetition of quiet acts. The decision to stand when it's easier to stay lying down. The courage to keep showing up, not because you expect reward, but because you refuse to betray yourself. That was when I learned the truth about greatness. It isn't built in moments of excitement. It's forged in the long stretches of monotony. Like fire, it grows slowly, not in the blaze of attention, but in the steady burn of endurance. The Stoics understood this better than anyone. Seneca once said, "If a man knows not to which port he sails, no wind is favorable." It means the purpose must come first, the pace second. Most people reverse it. They move fast without direction, chasing motion instead of meaning. I had done that for years. Now I was learning to move slowly but deliberately, letting each action carry weight. One afternoon, as I watched the sun set behind the city, I saw a group of rowers training on the river. Their movements were perfectly synchronized, no one rushing, no one dragging. Every stroke was calm, measured, powerful. They weren't racing against the water. They were moving with it. That image became my metaphor for life. I realized that progress doesn't mean forcing your way through the current. It means learning its rhythm, adjusting, flowing, enduring. And yet, this kind of patience terrifies most people, because it strips away illusions. When the noise fades, you're left alone with your truth. You see your weaknesses. You meet your doubts. And you can't distract yourself anymore. But that's also where transformation begins, in that uncomfortable silence where there's nowhere left to run. Every Stoic knew this. The mind that avoids pain also avoids power. So I made a promise to myself. I would stop seeking speed. I would start seeking depth. I would let time refine me instead of trying to outrun it. Because everything real trust, mastery, peace takes time. The world will tell you to hurry, to prove, to compete. But true strength is found in those who can wait, who can endure the unseen seasons without losing faith in the process. That's how the slow fire of greatness begins, not in the spotlight, but in the shadows. Not with applause, but with quiet persistence. Every small act of discipline becomes a spark, and those sparks, over time, become light. And one morning, you wake up realizing that the fire never left, you were just learning how to carry it. If this resonates with you, stay, subscribe. Keep walking with me. Because this path, this Stoic path, isn't about reaching perfection. It's about becoming the kind of person who never stops moving forward, no matter how slow the pace. Discipline came to me not as a lesson, but as a confrontation. One morning, I looked in the mirror and realized I had been lying to myself, not with words, but with broken promises. Tomorrow had become my escape. Later had become my comfort. Every undone task, every abandoned intention was a quiet betrayal. I told myself I lacked time, but the truth was harsher. I lacked discipline. That day, I made a silent vow not to become extraordinary, but to become consistent. The first days were brutal. My mind rebelled against structure. Every small act of discipline felt like dragging a mountain. Waking early, reading instead of scrolling, finishing what I started. None of it felt heroic. It felt humiliating, like wrestling my own weakness. But over time, something began to shift. My resistance didn't disappear, but my control grew stronger. Each time I followed through, even when I didn't want to, a small piece of doubt died inside me. That's when I realized, discipline isn't punishment. It's proof that you can trust yourself again. I once met a craftsman who worked alone in a dim workshop at the edge of town. For 40 years, he carved violins by hand. No assistants, no shortcuts, no machines. I asked him how he could spend decades repeating the same process without losing interest. He smiled and said, "I don't repeat. I refine." That line stayed with me. The difference between the ordinary and the exceptional isn't passion, it's persistence. Passion burns fast. Discipline endures. But here's the truth that most people never face. Discipline is lonely. It won't get you applause. No one cheers when you turn down distractions or choose silence over comfort. The results are invisible for a long time, and that's what breaks most people. They want progress they can see, not character they can feel. Yet the Stoics knew that what grows unseen becomes unshakable. Every small act of discipline builds invisible walls within you, walls that storms can't destroy. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, remind yourself, you were born to work as a human being." He didn't mean to work without rest. He meant to live with intention. Discipline isn't about denying yourself joy. It's about choosing what kind of joy is worth having. the fleeting pleasure of comfort, or the deep satisfaction of mastery. Now when I wake before sunrise, I no longer see discipline as a burden. I see it as freedom, the ability to act despite resistance, to build something sacred out of ordinary days. Because that's what separates those who talk about change from those who live it. The 1% aren't luckier or stronger. They're simply consistent when others aren't. So if you're still waiting for the right moment to begin, understand this. Discipline doesn't wait for permission. It begins the moment you keep your word to yourself. That's when you stop wishing for strength and start becoming it. If these words found you at the edge of giving up, subscribe. Stay with me. Let's walk this path of quiet mastery together, one disciplined choice at a time. There's a moment that comes after discipline, a quieter, more difficult test. It's when no one's watching. When the applause fades, the results still haven't arrived. And the only voice left is the one in your head asking, "Why am I still doing this?" That's when most people stop. I almost did too. Because it's easy to act disciplined when progress is visible. It's far harder to continue when everything feels like darkness. But that darkness, I later realized, was never a punishment. It was training. I began to call it the dark room. Not a place, but a state of being. A mental space where there are no distractions, no validation, only you, your doubts, and your choices. It's where your mind stops pretending. In that room, there are no shortcuts left to take, no audience left to impress. Only the work remains. And that's where strength is truly forged. Because the dark room strips away illusions. It takes every part of you built for performance and asks, "Who are you when no one's watching?" I first met this darkness when I was trying to rebuild after failure. I would wake before dawn, sit in silence, and write. Some mornings the words flowed, others nothing came. The silence was suffocating, almost unbearable. But I stayed. I learned that silence has a language. It teaches patience, humility, and focus. It reveals the difference between passion and purpose. Passion dies in isolation. Purpose grows in it. I once spoke to a boxer who trained in an old gym long after everyone else had left. When I asked why, he said, "Because that's when the lies stop." He explained that during the day, when the gym was full, everyone looked strong. But at night, in the quiet, when it was just him and the heavy bag, the truth came out how bad he really wanted it. That hit me deeply, because the same was true for me. The dark room exposes you. It doesn't care about your image or your excuses. It only cares if you'll keep going. The Stoics knew this intimately. Seneca wrote, "Fire tests gold, adversity tests brave men. In darkness you are refined." Each challenge burns away what's unnecessary until all that remains is essence, clarity, resilience, integrity. The dark room isn't the enemy. It's the forge. And those who endure it emerge quieter, calmer, and unbreakable. Over time, I came to love that silence. I stopped fearing it. I started craving it. Because in that stillness, I rediscovered something I had long lost myself. When you sit with your own thoughts long enough, you stop running from them. You begin to understand your fears, your ambitions, your limits. And when you understand yourself, the world loses its power to shake you. So if you're in your own dark room right now, lost, tired, uncertain, don't rush to escape. Stay, keep working, keep breathing. The light you're searching for isn't out there. It's being built inside you, one quiet moment at a time. If this message speaks to you, subscribe. Let's keep walking together through the dark until we both find our light. There comes a point when the darkness begins to whisper, not to frighten you, but to ask what you'll do next. You've endured the silence, faced yourself, burned through illusion. Now comes the final trial, vision. Because even strength without direction is still lost. I learned that the hard way. After months of discipline, I was steady, calm, controlled. But one morning, I woke and realized I was moving without meaning. I had built the body of a warrior, but not his purpose. That realization hit me harder than any failure ever had. Discipline can carry you far, but without vision, it eventually becomes a cage. So I began to ask the question most people avoid. Why am I doing this? Not what do I want, but why does it matter? The world around me was obsessed with results, titles, wealth, recognition. But none of those things could sustain the soul. I remembered a conversation with a mountain climber who had spent 10 years preparing for a single ascent. I asked him what drove him all those years. He said, "I don't climb to conquer mountains. I climb to remember how small I am." That sentence stayed with me. Vision isn't about reaching higher, it's about seeing deeper. It's not about being the best. It's about becoming whole. When I began shaping my why, everything changed. The long hours didn't feel empty anymore. The setbacks no longer looked like punishments. They felt like lessons. Every obstacle became a mirror asking, "Are you still committed, even without reward?" That's when I understood what the Stoics meant by amor fati, to love your fate, not just accept it. Because once you find meaning in your struggle, the pain loses its power to break you. It becomes fuel. I remember a woman I met at a hospital waiting room. Her son had been fighting a terminal illness for years. Yet she smiled gently, as if carrying peace in her hands. When I asked how she stayed so calm, she said, "Because I know why I'm here. My purpose is to make him feel safe, no matter what happens next." That day, I understood that purpose doesn't always roar. Sometimes it's silent endurance, anchored in love, faith, or duty. That kind of clarity gives strength that nothing can touch. And that's what vision truly is, a compass, not a crown. It doesn't tell you what to chase. It reminds you what to serve. Once you have that, failure can't shake you, success can't blind you, and fear can't stop you. You move differently. You breathe differently. You live with a quiet certainty that no one can take away. So ask yourself tonight, what am I truly living for? Because when you find your why, your how will always follow. And from that moment, no setback can hold you. No storm can move you off your path. If this message stirred something in you, stay. Subscribe. Because what we build here isn't noise or motivation, it's clarity, strength, and purpose. And it begins, as it always does, with you.